Right, right. Shalom, shalom. Let us start by giving all honor, praise, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Bachak Wadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who well. Blessings and salutations to the hopeful elect that's scattered abroad. Akim and Akwat that's listening in. Yahweh Ratazal, Lord willing that the lesson is edifying. It's the brother Shawab Amawan back at you with another lesson. And going into the title, all right. These videos of the Rice Krispy treat will continue to surface, all right? And I'm just gonna show one video, but the point of that video is because the video that I'm gonna show, it's an older video. I've seen this video before. I think I might have used it months back or even, close to last year, all right? But what you're gonna start to see on the algorithms, all right, of social platforms is you're going to start seeing a lot of resurfacing of a lot of videos of people getting these RFID C-hips being put into their bodies, all right? And there's been many videos in the past that have been showing, people getting these C-hips, right? People, showing you how it's going to be convenient for you, how you can open the door for a car, open the door to your house, check in and log in at your job. You see, so they're going to do things like this more often, all right, on the algorithms, because we're coming into the time where they're about to present and, it's about to show its face. Mandatory, you see, this RFID technology, okay? So the more people see it, the more gradually people will adapt to it, more gradually will people, what's the word I'm looking for? Gravitate towards that technology, you see, because they begin to think it's of the norm. You see, you have to understand, social media is a subconscious thing, right? It's made to basically, put demons on you, draw you to something that is appealing to the eye, you see. They use it to brainwash you, okay? So the more these people start seeing these things on the algorithms, especially at the time of them also speaking these things, telling you that, identification, C-hips are going to be presented, biometrics is going to be presented, identifications, IDs, you see digital IDs are going to be presented. And then you see these things on the social media at the same time, and it looks just like something of the norm, you see? So people are going to literally, all right, continue to, gravitate to that at the end of the day, okay? So be mindful of that, all right? So let me show you this video real quick, and I'm going to try to make it quick, the video, all right? Spend not too much time on it, but Lord willing is, edifying and straight to the point. All right, so let me grab the video real quick, and then I'm gonna grab some precepts. Hey man, hey, look, that's the spirit. As soon as I open up Instagram, one of the brothers just posted 50 minutes ago. It's official. Europe just killed financial freedom. By January 2027, cash will be outlawed. Here's what this means for you and how you can prepare. All right. So let me just read this as I'm right here with it. It says Europe just approved a new cash law. By January 2027. Anything over 10,000 in cash becomes illegal to use. All right. They say it's anti-money laundering. Okay. So see, this is the thing. They're about to roll out this thing, man. Lord willing, it comes to pass, here in 2026, all right, that they, pretty much introduced this MOTB being made mandatory. All right. They keep trying to always push a certain date. You know, I always said, you know, when Esau gives dates, it's just to throw it up in the air, man. Okay, because it's all in the will of the Heavenly Father, and we're diligently watching the signs that the Lord, you know, has given us. Right, we're measuring the time diligently within itself. So the way things are going, it seems like it's just going to be presented before that, before 2027, and it can very well, you know, carry on to 2027. All right, but you know, we're hoping, we're praying through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashem Yahushua that these things come to pass, you know, as pretty much ASAP, as soon as possible, so we could get the hell up out of here, you know. But Esau likes to prolong things. Esau likes to play around, you know, play with your head. You know, that's another form of, you know, a tactic in, you know, psychology, all right, to have your head messed up. All right. But like I said, you know, measuring the time diligently within itself, it looks like it might be presented before that. Okay. So let's see what happens. All right. So it says, let's see what else they have. It says no cash means no privacy. All right. Every payment becomes traceable. Every Bitcoin must be government approved, meaning 340 million citizens will be monitored by default. Next comes the digital euro. All right, money with limits, expiry dates, and spending rules. All right, they'll brand its moderation, and how they're going to brand that. You know, they're going to brand it, give it, you know, different types of names and different types of brands, just like when you go buy different types of brands of clothes, right? But they're also going to brand you. You see, that's a spiritual thing, because that's what I was going to go into the lesson, how they branded people in ancient Rome, showing that we are still in that revival of the ancient Roman Empire. You see, it says the truth is, you know, programmable control. Today, cashless. Tomorrow, permission-based money. Break a rule, account frozen. And most importantly, who decides what are allowed to buy, right? What you're allowed to buy. Bottom line, your bank account won't be yours. Your salary won't be safe. Your freedom will depend entirely on someone else's approval. You see, and that's facts right there. You see. Now let's grab this video, right, that I got. Give me 1 second. Yeah, here goes the video. It's an older video, like I said, but you're going to start to see things like this surface, okay?
So Patrick here is the CIO. Andy is a licensed body piercer, so let it rip. We're going to first what this microchip looks like. It is about the size of a grain of basmati rice. So Patrick here is the CIO. Andy is a licensed body piercer, so let it rip. We're going to see this now.
I got it.
I can't look.
No, you're doing fine. You're doing fine.
I can't look. Needle is in.
Oh,
Chip is in.
Bingo.
Not very much blood at all. Patrick, how'd it feel?
Better than get my wisdom teeth out.
Okay, you still
See, this is why they're going to start resurfacing things like this to show you that it looks normal. It looks like nothing that's harming you. How did it feel? It felt great. You know, it felt normal. That's what he's basically saying, you know. And then after that, all right, he's going to go.
Great. Melissa got chipped yesterday, but you had to be talked into doing this. How long did it take you to say yes to this?
I was a little hesitant at first, but I had 7 days to think about it. And once I learned the facts, there was no question in my mind.
Okay,
See, that's the way they get you comfortable, you see, because instantly people going to be, especially us Israelites, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, when you see this thing being presented, it's going to spark in your brain like, damn, should I get this or not? Because that's already your conscience, your spirit telling you there's something wrong, you see. But she said, oh, you know, I kind of contemplated on it. And, you know, after I, you know, heard the details, right, and the significance of it, then, you know, it was no doubt in my mind about it that I would take it, you see. So that's to make you comfortable, to take that exact feeling that you're going to have when you first think about it, to make you be like, well, that lady said, you know, the more she thought about the details and what it could be good for, she ended up taking it anyway. So that's a psychological thing that they're doing to your mind, you know, to make you easily fall for the bait, you see. And that's why they're going to have more videos like this resurfacing, okay, on top of the new videos that are already, you know, that are constantly being resurfaced. Now you're going to start seeing more of these old videos resurface, right?
Joey over here holding Matt. Go ahead, Steve. They can buy their goodies here in the break room by just using their hand. Real quickly, he's going to get a Kit Kat bar. And it's paid for $1.06, guys. So
See?
the question again, as
That's
we
the
asked you
point right
last
there,
week,
to make it look like it's something simple. Okay. Now, a couple things in those videos, right?
First, what this
Let me
microchip looks like.
Let me open
It
this
is
up for
about
you
the
so you
size
can
of a
see.
grain of basmati rice. So
All
Patrick
right.
here's the CIO. Andy is a licensed body piercer. So
So
let it rip. We're going to see this now.
let's grab this, right? Revelations 13, and I'm just gonna go through this because you never know who's new listening. All right, we've gone through this a million times. All right, but hey, we're gonna continue to say the same thing, sounding like a broken record. All right, because Jake is hard-headed. As many times as you tell Jake, they still forget. You see, this is Revelations 13 and 16, and it says, "And he calls it all both small and great." All right. As a matter of fact, let's take it from 14, because I'm gonna go into a little. Going into the chat, I asked it a few questions about ancient Rome. All right. So 14 says, and he deceived them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles, meaning what? The technologies. All right. And this is one of the forms of technology, the image that they're going to use. All right. To, deceive the masses with, by the means of those technologies, those miracles. Right. Which he had power to do in the sight of the beast. All right. Going into NATO, the EU, saying them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast, which had the wound by a sword and did live. Yeah, because the Roman Empire, right? When they were the first Roman Empire, ruled for a while, and then they were brought down. And after they were brought down, all right, you didn't hear them for basically almost 1,000 years, as it goes into Revelations, the 20th chapter, right? That the Lord has shut, Satan up, that he can no longer deceive the nations, right? Let's just grab that real quick. Revelations 20 and 2. And he laid hold on that dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years and cast him into the bottomless pit. All right, which that bottomless pit goes into Europe. All right. And it says, and shut him up and set a seal upon him, that he should deceive the nations no more till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled. And after that, he must be loosed a little season. All right. So in that time period, all right, you didn't hear of Rome for a while, you see. And then our people ruled, what you would call basically those dark ages, right? We ruled in that time. Okay. And you didn't hear of this devil. Okay. And then it goes into, and when the 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison, and shall go out to deceive the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth, and Gog and Magog together to gather them together to battle, the number of whom is as the sand of the sea. You see, and after that 1,000 years expired, when you went into the history of the Renaissance era, all right, that was that revival of that ancient Roman Empire, which Renaissance means rebirth. You see, so that's why it's the revival of that Roman ancient empire. So they fell for, 1,000 years. You didn't hear of them, and then they came back into power again. You see, so when they came back into power, the first thing they did was they started to deceive the nations again. Iconoclasm, whitewash everything, whitewash images. You see, and they're ruling from that time to now. Still been ruling. We're in that revival of that ancient Roman Empire, okay, and we're living in it to this day, right now as we speak, okay. So let's go back to going to Revelations 13 and 14, and it says, which had the wound by a sword and did live. And that's what it meant, that they were wounded, they were brought down, but then they did live, okay, because they eventually came back into power. And he had power to give life onto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image. You see, would not worship the image. Okay. And going into, all right, again, going into worshiping that image, kind of goes into them, basically bringing in that same image that they were having kind of in that time of Rome. Okay. when they were, pretty much, branding people. Okay, which let me grab this real quick. Okay, from the chat. Give me 1 second. Got it. I ended up screenshot it because chat be tripping sometimes. All right. All right. So I asked, in ancient Rome, were slaves branded to show that they were owned by their masters, right? And this is to show you that we're still living in the times of Rome, basically. Maybe it don't look the same way as the times of Rome, but the same spirit of Rome is still here. This is why it's called the revival of the ancient Roman Empire. It says, yes, in ancient Rome, some enslaved people were indeed marked or branded to indicate ownership or status through, though it wasn't universal for all slaves. All right. And who were they mostly, branded in those times? They were branding our people at the end of the day. You see, there was nobody else being branded other, all right, than, to the Israelites. Okay. Now what happened with this? Right. So it says branding, called stigma in Latin, which I'm going to go into that word, was sometimes in particular situation used in particular situations. For example, enslaved people who tried to escape could be branded on the forehead with letters like FUG, all right, which basically made FUG, which was short for fugitive, right? It says meaning running away, runaway. Okay. So, hey, the fact that it's even saying the forehead, all right, they were branding people in their foreheads back in the day. All right. What did it say in Revelation 13:16? Right. Going back to that real quick. It says, let me finish 15. It says, and he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, and that the image of the beast should both speak. All right. And that image is being spoken of right now. Right. And it says, and cause as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. Yeah, because if you don't comply with the society, it's basically off for your head. Right. It says, and he caused all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a MERK in their right hand or in their foreheads. You see, so that's spiritual, right? Showing you that we're still living in that same spirit. Okay. So back to the chat, right? It says they were branded on their foreheads with the letters FUG, which was short for fugitivus, right? Fugitive, meaning runaway. This was meant to publicly identify indeed or escape. In other cases, markings could be used to show ownership, though collars weren't actually more common for that purpose. Some collars even had inscriptions like, I am the slave of the, and then we'll have the master's name. Return me if found. All right. And that's what it's going to be like in these last days, man. All right. They're going to have you bow down to their system, to their image. All right. To show that you're a slave. You're branded to this society, man. You see, that's your verification, showing you I am of the image of the beast. I am of this beast system. I am owned by Esau, whatever, lineage, because basically when they're going to brand you, it's going to be you belong to the Rothschilds, or, you belong to the Bilderbergs or the DuPonts, or the Rockefellers, whatever. Okay. So it's the same type of thing. Shalom, Sister Yahweh, Shabrakatah. Right. So it says, it's worth understanding that slavery in ancient Rome was harsh, but varied widely. Okay. Some enslaved people worked in brutal conditions, such as mines and farms, while others served in households and could eventually earn or be granted freedom. Okay. And hey, that's what they're going to do today. You're going to be granted freedom if you become a digital slave, which that just sounds crazy to begin with, because how are you really free if you are bound down to the system and showing that you're a digital slave, right? But being a digital slave, being a good old boy, okay, you're going to be rewarded with the freedom of this world, which the freedom of this world will be what? Wickedness, man. Okay. It says branding was more associated with punishment or control. And that's what they want today, total technocracy, right? rather than a standard practice for every enslaved person. It says, so while branding did happen, it was typically used as a disciplinary or identifying measure, especially for those considered a flight risk rather than, and it cut off right there, right? Rather than, let's see, a flight risk rather than a universal rule applied to all slaves, right? So now let's go. I had put something else. Now I put, will they do the same in today's society for RFID micro C hits, right? It says, I can see why you're connecting those ideas. The image of branding in the past and modern technology like RFID C hits can feel similar on the surface, but in reality, they are very different in purpose and how they're used. All right, RFID and C hips do exist, and they're used in things like pet identification, key cards, inventory tracking, sometimes voluntarily, in humans for convenience. See, the chat fucked up right there. Because then if you go ask the chat and be like, are they going to be used in today's society? They'll tell you straight up no. But it's already telling you right here that voluntarily in humans, it was used for convenience. And that's how they're going to push it out in these last days, man, that it's convenient to you, right? So they're already telling you people got it here for the convenience, right? It says like opening doors and making payments, right? He calls it all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a MARK in his right hand or in his forehead, right? That they might not buy, save he that had, they didn't buy, so like that they might not buy or sell, save he that had the MARK. You see? So you're not going to be able to buy or sell unless you have that technology. See, that's proven right there. You see? Because it's used for payments. So that's a cut on anybody that's speaking other than an RFID C hip is the only way that you're going to be able to make a payment, all right, in this society. And if they tell you that's not the MOTB, well, then they're completely bugged out, you see? Because they're already telling you these things, man. Their own tongue shall fall upon them, as the scriptures say, all right? So it says, these human implants are small. See, these human implants are small, passive devices. They don't have GPS, don't track people continuously, and only work when scanned at very close range. And see, eventually it will become a non-passive device, okay? You have passive and then you have non-passive, all right? So non-passive is when you're going to be able to be tracked through GPS, all right? You're going to be able to, you know, you won't have to be around close range, man. You're going to be able to be detected by the system. You know, they have this Palantir devices and system that's being set, okay? The ID, biometrics, you see all that shit gonna go hand in hand because you're gonna be able to be detected worldwide everywhere you're at, you see? So it says, importantly, okay, it says in modern societies, these are laws around consent, privacy, and bodily anatomy, right? Anatomy, right? And then it says, and see, that's the thing, that it's laws. It's based on laws. See, when it's made mandatory, it's going to be a law that is going to be made mandatory. That's why right now it's not. It's a voluntary thing because it hasn't been made a full law yet. But eventually it will, because we're in the times where the dragon is speaking. I mean, they're speaking like a dragon, as the scriptures say in Revelations, right? That meaning that they're speaking draconian laws. So these laws are going to become more harsh. These laws are going to give you more. It's basically going to give you no fucking option. And you're going to have to submit to their system, you see? But we're not going to submit to them because we're not ignorant to Satan's devices, right? So it says forcing people to be implanted or marked as a form of control or ownership will be illegal, treated as a serious violation of human rights. And that's why it's called a draconian law, meaning a harsh law. It's pretty much going to go against what the norm is. It's going to go against the protocol. It's going to go against the code that you're not supposed to go into, you see, because they're not going to give a shit. They still have one mission. It is to, you know, see hip all people all right, around the globe. So it says it would face some kind of legal and public opposition as other forms of uh, corrosion or abuse. Yeah, it's going to make a public opposition, meaning it's going to turn into sedition among men. This is why Second Ezra 15 will come into play. You know, that they will turn against their kings, against their governments. There will be civil war. You see. So it says there are ongoing debates about privacy and technology, and those are worth paying attention to. But there's no credible evidence of governments or institutions using the implants to control or own people in a way slavery systems did. All right, and that's just straight nonsense right there, right? So let's go to one more. All right, and then I'll go back to. All right, give me 1 second. I'm just looking at what I saved. I don't think I have to bring this part out. Kind of pretty much just spoke on that. Give me 1 second, bear with me. All right, so then I asked, what's the history behind the Roman Empire branding slaves to show their ownership of their slaves? And it says the practice you're asking about, often called a stigma, a mark or a brand, comes out of the broader Roman system of control over enslaved people, but it's a bit more nuanced than a simple universal ownership mark. It says in the Roman Empire, slavery was deeply embedded in society. Enslaved people were legally considered property. You see, it's something I was meditating, right? They were considered property. Well, this is how you know that Esau be trying to play the role of God, right? The Lord, Esau said that he will be like the Most High, right? When you go into Isaiah the 14th chapter, right? Let's grab that real quick. He says in verse 14, I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. You see, this is his mentality, right? Now, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai said to us that we are what? We are, what is that? 1 Peter's 2:9. But you are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a peculiar people, that ye should show forth the praises of him who has called you in out of darkness into the marvelous light. When you go into that word peculiar people, right? Peculiar means, all right, prized possession, one's own property. You see, that word goes into peripiasis, something like that.
Strong.
Let's hear it.
Strong G, 4047.
Peripoiesis. And it goes into a possession, a prized possession, one's own property. So we are the Lord's valued property, right? And Esau's trying to come in the way of the Lord, you see? Trying to see that he's trying to mock the Lord. So he wants to make you his valued property, you know, basically being able to, you know, you're going to be his useful property, his value. All right. Why? Because you're a slave. I could tell him to do whatever I want. So he's useful. He is my value. He's to my value to run my system. You see? And that just goes to show this devil's intentions. Right. So let's go back. It says, and owners used a range of methods to manage, identify, and discipline them. Yeah. And if you don't comply with society, you'll be disciplined. Right. Your credit score, your credit score, and it will go down, right? Or your C-hit will be turned off and you can't get paid. You can't eat for the month, all right? And if you really act up, they just pretty much leak some cyanide into you and pretty much, you know, off you, you see? See how it all goes hand in hand with each other? Brandon was one of those methods, but it was not applied to all slaves, all right? And that's eventually going to be applied to all slaves here. It says origins of branding go back to earlier Greek and Roman practices where marks were used on criminals, prisoners of war, and runaway slaves. You see, and these people that, you know, we are considered as criminals to the world, right? All these people that's going to join the war, all of those are going to be taken and they're going to be hit, right? Runaway slaves, okay? People going to try to run away from the society, but they're going to be out there searching for you, okay? And if you get caught, you're going to get MOTB'd, you see? It's all spiritual, man, when you have the spiritual lenses to read between the lines, right? Let's see what else I have here. Yeah, so it goes into 1. It says punishment and deterrence, right? It says branding was most commonly used as an enslaved people who tried to escape, all right? And then they were, you know, stamped on their forehead, basically, it says, all right, with that word FUG, which meant a fugitive, right? All right, so then you have public identification. A visible mark could signal to others that a person was enslaved and had a history of disobedience. However, in everyday life, metal collars with inscriptions were often more common and practical for identifying ownership than permanent branding. All right, and again, showing you, you know, that you'll have a public verification, all right, to this system, right? 3, social stigma and control. The mark itself carried a social meaning in Roman culture. A stigma signified shame, punishment, or low status. You see, that's why he wants to put that on you, so he could show your shame, you see, to the Heavenly Father. He could shame you in front of the Heavenly Father, all right, to show, look how I got your people, you know, they're in great shame now, you know. And that's why the Lord said anybody that takes on that image, right? Let me see. That's the rest of it. I ain't even going to go into no more, right? And that's why Revelations 14:9 tells you what, all right? This is 14:9, and it says, and the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast or his image and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of Yahweh, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation, and he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. You see, and eventually, you know, you're going to get hit with the missiles also. You see, so you're just going to burn in that lake of fire for bowing down. You see, that's why we command our people not to bow down to the system, because the Lord has commanded you not to do these things. You see, so let's go back to Revelations 13:16 and start closing out, right? So going into that word M-A-R-K, right, goes into, all right, goes into charagma, right, which charagma, all right, goes into, it says a stamp or an imprinted M-A-R-K on the forehead or the right hand of the, as the badge of the followers of the Antichrist, meaning this system, because this whole entire system is anti-Hamashiach. It's contrary to the Lord's ways, right? It says the thing carved, sculpture or graven work of an idolatrous image. Yeah, because that's going to be your digital image, your digital Messiah. Okay, that's the image that they want you to follow, the image of the beast, right? Now that word charagma goes into charax, which goes into a stake. Okay, that's what's going to be used to push it into your system. Stake drives into the ground. You see, stake drives into the ground. So that means that this technology of their needles that they use, like you saw in that video, right? They use a big ass needle. Okay, this is what the stake is right here, basically. All right, this is basically the stake. Okay.
Microchip looks like. It is about the size of a grain of basmati rice. So Patrick here is the CIO. Andy is a licensed body piercer. So let it rip. We're going to see this now.
See this device that he's using to push it in? That's the stake. See how big it is?
I can't look. Needle is in.
And it's even spiritual that it's in the shape of a cross. You see. So, right, that's what the karax is. All right, the idea of scratching, scratching on the surface of the skin. All right, which is going to be sharpened to a point. All right, karaso, it's going to be sharpened to the point. So you need the sharpened point to be staked into your skin to basically, put the implication in, right? Put the implementation, right? Now, from that goes into karax, goes into grapho, which basically, straight to the point, means to write the one example by writing in a written epistle to give information, directions, to compose. You see, to write things not to be forgotten. You see, that means data. All that means data. Directions, meaning your GPS. They can, pretty much, pinpoint your location at all times. They can give you information and they can receive information. You see, it's all going back to doing what a computer did. A computer gives information and can receive information. You can download information to it. Same thing with you. That's why you're going to be the computer. That's why you're no longer going to need, all right, an actual phone, you see, because you're going to be that computer now. You're not going to need no more computers or phones. You're going to be that device with the device in you. Transhumanism, merging man with technology, you see. So this is what's coming to the future, and this is what you're going to continue to see surface on your algorithms, right? More and more, showing you that we're that close to the system, man. Okay, showing you that this thing's about to be showing its face, is about to be presented. Because I've been seeing more older videos pop up. These are videos they were showing you in 2022, 2023. Okay, but it's a psychological tactic, to start to keep brainwashing the masses that it's a gradual, that it's a normal thing, you see. So, hey, that's pretty much the point. Okay, they're coming with it very soon. All right, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shah, all we can do is continually, measure the time diligently with himself. So I'm gonna leave it there through the spirit, Lord willing, that you were edified. So with that being said, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shai, call the Lord and live Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Bahakodash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who well. Blessings and salutations to the hopeful elect scattered abroad. Akim and Aquat that was listening in. Yahweh Ratazah, Lord willing, that the lesson was edifying. To the next one, Shalom. Keep fighting the good fight of faith, doing as good soldiers of Yahweh Shai. Just continue to learn the silence, watching the true man of the Lord, and constantly building prayers up that we stay protected, stay girded, all right, and that Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai have mercy upon us in the hour of temptation. As the Lord said, because thou hast kept the word of my patience, I will also keep thee from the hour of temptation. Let no man snatch your crown. Okay, the Lord gonna preserve us in those days. He's gonna keep us away from that technology. He's gonna keep us away from Esau's system. All right, as long as you stay loyal to the Lord, he'll stay loyal to you. You see, so stay strong, stay mighty, stay prayed up. All right, because the flesh indeed is weak. All right, and make no provision for the flesh. Shalom, Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shah Barakatah.